After playing Sonic X Shadow Generations, especially Shadow's campaign, it just really felt like that this game was like the best Sonic game that I could ever have possibly have played in my life, especially alone for a Shadow the Hedgehog game, let's be real. It literally felt like the definition of Shadow the Hedgehog 2, I'm not gonna lie, and it was absolutely amazing. Just seeing Shadow's story, seeing so many things that just happened all at once is absolutely insane, and the storyline was so good. It wasn't exactly as much as like how the length of the original Sonic Generations would have actually been, but that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. Because I feel like that there should be more content being added to Shadow Generations. So let's talk about it. What's up, my awesome Mad Lads? My name is Mad Dog, and welcome to this very interesting discussion video. We're going to be talking about what kind of additional content should actually be added to Shadow Generations only. We're not going to be talking about just, both games. We're just talking about Shadow Generations alone. So, because as you figured out that, unlike Sonic Generations, Shadow Generations does have a bit of a short kind of use of playing. However, it's not that technically short of a game for this campaign, but it wasn't exactly the same length of playability that it should have had, which is exactly one of the main things that I will be talking about today, and a few other pieces of content that I do feel like should also be added to Shadow Generations. So, let's go ahead and talk about that right now. Starting off with the levels. Well, as you can obviously tell that when it comes to the levels, we've already actually had an amount of pretty good acts that are actually related to Shadow the Hedgehog himself. We actually had about like 6 level locations specifically. Starting off with the Space Colony Arc, Railway Canyon from Sonic Heroes, Kingdom Valley from Sonic 06, Sunset Heights from Sonic Forces, Chaos Island from Sonic Frontiers, and finally, Radical Highway, the game that started it all, from Sonic Adventure 2. And to be honest, that's actually not too bad. Like, having at least 6, that was actually not too bad than I thought it would actually be. But I feel like we can add in 3 more with an additional 2 acts along with them as well. So starting off with the very first one, and it's a pretty obvious pick because this one makes so much sense and it suits Shadow's character very easily. Planet Coaster from Sonic Colors. Yep, I mean, it was pretty obvious that I was going to say it. And plus, there's already a mod that there was going to be showcased for it too as well, which, by the way, is actually really impressive. And of course, we're going to be adding 2 acts for this one, because why wouldn't we? Plus, by the way, Shadow was actually in Coaster Highway with Omega in Sonic Colors DS version, which, by the way, that was actually pretty cool. And I don't think I need to explain any more further that aside that he was just there. The music, the theme, and everything just seemed to really suit the vibe for Shadow's character. And you know what? I'm all down for it. Seeing High Coaster Planet again would be very awesome to see. It was like one of those radical kind of levels that I actually kind of like the most. Once you actually get used to it, of course, then there's no problem in, getting through the level, of course. Of course, the next level that I'm going to be talking about that should also be for Shadow Generations is, of course, The Lost Way, which is basically the final stage in Shadow the Hedgehog in 2005, which basically is pretty much the actual final level that Shadow needs to go through before fighting Double Doom as Super Shadow. And this is so obvious because we never actually had any Shadow the Hedgehog levels ever in Shadow Generations. And I feel like that The Lost Way should be the most perfect sense to actually put 2 acts into that level. They can at least try to add some of these 2 specific levels in somewhere in the hub world, unless you gotta put like an extension hub world or something to Shadow Generations or something. Because, I mean, think about it, we got a lot of space for it, so I guess there's no harm in doing so. Unless they're just gonna use a ring portal like they did with the movie act. Which, by the way, I will talk about that later. As for the final level that I do think should actually be added to Shadow Generations, well, this was a tough one. I mean, there's so many levels that can actually be implemented that you can use for Shadow the Hedgehog, but it was so difficult to choose from that I could not figure out which one could I use specifically. But as I came up to a conclusion, trying to figure this out in my head, literally all in one shot, there was only one specific game that I could think that might just work, even though technically it wasn't really the greatest of levels back then, especially on the Wii. That's right, I'm actually talking about the levels from Sonic and the Black Knight. Now, of course, there's not going to be such thing as a freaking Lancelot Shadow skin. Actually, then again, you could actually put Shadow Lancelot in there as an additional skin for Shadow the Hedgehog in that campaign. And there's a few levels that you can play as Sir Lancelot based on the following levels to Sonic and the Black Knight: Night Passage, Shrouded Forest, Great Megalith, the Cauldron, and Dragon's Lair. You could possibly use Dragon's Lair, for example, because it kind of makes sense that, you know, he's basically a Dragon Slayer, and since due to the fact that he does have a Dragon Slayer outfit in Sonic Forces Speed Battle, which, to be honest, I actually really don't mind that. I think Dragon's Lair could be at least the most possible or plausible, you know, level to use for Sonic and the Black Knight and put that into Shadow Generations. Of all the other levels, I could not think of anything. I just did not have a single clue. And I don't even want to go through like Sonic Lost World, since that's not really exactly the greatest idea to use. And I couldn't think of any other ones because it's just basically repeating other games from other levels from other games, so to speak. But yeah, so pretty much Dragon's Lair from Black Knight is literally going to be the best option that I can choose from. Now, of course, I'm going to be talking about the bosses. Yep, straight away, I'm going into the bosses as the next priority to add in for more content. Because as you know, we only found like just specifically 4 bosses. 3 bosses that are basically the big boys, since also including Devil Doom as like literally the main big boy in the entire freaking game. And then for Mephiles, well, he was sort of like a half and half, due to the fact that one, he just has the form of Shadow but crystallized, but then transforms into this gigantic version of himself during like a quarter way into the battle. So you could probably consider Mephiles as just a rival kind of boss. As for the other 3, those are like the big bosses. So I am actually going to be adding at least 2 more bosses, 2 more rival type bosses, and 1 bigger boss just with the big boys. Starting off as the first rival boss that I think should make sense to be put in is Emerl, because as you know, since that Emerl has actually been reintroduced thanks to the prologues in Dark Beginnings, this kind of makes a lot of sense since that, you know, he was created by Gerard Robotnik. He has the ability to copy other characters' moves and old kind of power sets. Now, I actually did mention something like this before in one of my previous videos before Shadow Generations release. To me, it would just make a lot of sense because, you know, he was the first rival to Shadow after all before Sonic came in. And speaking of Sonic, I don't really think there's no need to actually have like Sonic come back and do like Shadow's perspective as a rival fight. Because first off, number one, basically the whole thing was really just a cutscene, and I really don't think there's no need to specifically have a freaking boss fight again against Sonic and Shadow. That's just being too repetitive. So that's why I feel like that, you know, Emerl is probably a better, safer option to actually have, and probably have them fighting some area in the art. Maybe like in the animation of like the Dark Beginnings prologues. That'll probably make a lot of sense. Next, for the next rival fight, and you're probably going to be very hyped to hear what I'm about to say for this one. Probably it's the most requested, if not probably. It was something that Sega should have probably also done as well. They brought back Mephiles, so it could have been a great time to bring back Infinite the Jackal from Sonic Forces. I mean, come on, think about it. You literally just put Sunset Heights in the freaking game. However, I can understand why they specifically did this. I think I understand why they decided to, you know, put back Sunset Heights, apart from, you know, not adding Infinite back to the game. Because one, probably because since due to the fact that Shadow actually loses in that fight, even though technically it wasn't really a fight, he was just fighting, he was trying to escape from this virtual world. Or probably two, it was just a missed opportunity that they just didn't decide to bring him back. Or three, because it wasn't really specifically it wasn't Shadow's fight. This was Sonic's fight to deal with. So they're trying to make it, you know, canonical to the rest of the timeline so that, you know, Shadow doesn't fight him. Instead, it will be Sonic, obviously, because he's the main hero to the story of Sonic Forces. But hey, I still believe that it would kind of still make sense if they at least added Infinite the Jackal back. You could add him as like before he had the mask, when he was, literally Zero the Jackal, the leader of the mercenary Jackal squad. You could do that maybe as the phase 1, and then maybe bring him with Infinite as his phase 2, perhaps. I don't know, but to be honest, it just makes more sense because Shadow was the one who pretty much started the whole thing, and Infinite really hates him for that. So they should have actually had the chance to actually add Infinite in, but try to figure out how can they do this boss fight, how different they could do it. So yeah, that's at least 3 thoughts that actually fit in with the rival fights. Now for the remaining big boss fight that I wanted to add in before, into the incoming of Black Doom. So I'm welcoming back the Night Titan from Sonic Frontiers. I mean, come on. Again, you literally just bought Chaos Island from Sonic Frontiers. You should have probably added him, because he was from Chaos Island. You should have used it. And being of the fact that the Titan Knight boss fight is pretty much very explanatory, and you literally just fighting him in an underground volcano, unless there's a different approach to actually fighting him this time. I mean, you could pretty much, use the wings, I think, because that makes a lot of sense. Just like how Supersonic flies in Sonic Frontiers to fight against the Night Titan, you could pretty much use the exact same thing, but this time with Shadow using the Doom Wings. The thing is about the Doom Wings is that it's pretty much considered to be a new super form now that you can actually use. And plus, it uses up rings from the very final fight that you used against Devil Doom, or even just using it in other stages of the game. So I'm very confident to say that, I guess the Night Titan is probably the #1 boss I would definitely bring back to Shadow Generations, even though technically this isn't Shadow's fight to deal with in the future, because Sonic is the one who fights him. But you know what? I still feel like it's a pretty awesome fight to actually do. And I really do hope that this will be used as added content. So, there you go. I filled in all the slots for the bosses and the rival bosses. So, there you have it. A few honorable mentions, I will say, is that one, for some of the bosses that I did not mention, first off, you do have the Black Bull, also, who is from Shadow Generations as well. You also do have some of the gun military forces that do actually show up in SA2 or even Shadow the Hedgehog as well. Those could have also been really good boss fights in return. And plus, I mean, to be honest, I know this is a bit crazy, but why not the Shadow Androids? I mean, I did mention that in my previous video if they were actually gonna be bosses again. I mean, it makes more sense, right? But I will talk about the Shadow Androids in just a quick second as well. But hey, those were all the bosses that I actually wanted to, bring up. So now for any other kind of additional content. Starting off with skins, for example. Now, as I said, apart from the fact that the Shadow Androids should have been a rival boss for Shadow in Shadow Generations, how about instead you could actually use them as additional skins for Shadow? Because think about it, I mean, they are the exact same as Shadow, though just technically some of them are just metallicized and some of them just have a recolor, like the yellow Shadow Android, then you have the blue, the green, the pink, and the orange Shadow Android. It's pretty self-explanatory, I'm not gonna lie. You can just basically use those skins for Shadow. I mean, you already have Tyrios, for example, so why not use the Shadow Androids finally as a skin? Speaking of skins for anybody else, I was kind of thinking of the Mephiles base form skin, but not as you could use it for Shadow, but I was thinking more of the lines of having them for Mephiles alone, because One, that would be kind of slick actually if he was just to be fighting in just his, regular state before he becomes crystallized and everything. I feel like that'll be like one of the most insane things you could actually do, just replacing a skin for a boss, which I feel like that would probably be the most awesome thing to ever possibly do. Now, I know a lot of people would also probably suggest Super Shadow. Well, then again, you've already got the mods for it on PC. I don't think they'll actually do Super Shadow because, think about it. The freaking Doom Wings are technically considered as a new super form that Shadow can now access. Though technically he loses all of his Doom powers at the end of the game, I think there will be a chance that we might actually get to see the Doom powers come back in some shape or form in any new mainline Sonic game. Now also, what about the Shadow move? The Sonic 3 movie pack. We've already also managed to get like one level with just one act and 2 act challenges for the movie pack for the Shadow Generations DLC. And also, don't forget, remember what he said at the end when you finished Act 1 of Tokyo? He says that he will be back. So I'm guessing that there's probably going to be one more act specifically in Tokyo for the movie pack, and then there's probably going to be a boss battle of some sort. Now, I'm not too quite sure about, which boss that would technically be. You could use the Eclipse Cannon and Gerald Robotnik movie version by Jim Carrey, of course, to be the boss of it. So you could actually access Super Movie Shadow or something. I don't know if that's going to be a possibility. However, in my honest opinion, they probably won't go that route because as much as hype it would be, but I think they're going to go more along the lines with that crab robot in the Sonic Movie 3. And hey, they might actually have Jim Carrey, Eggman, or even Agent Stone as the controller of this fight. I don't freaking know. But at least, to be honest, the crab battle, I think that will make a lot more sense rather than using, the Eclipse Cannon again. As much as I feel like that would be awesome to do, but alas, I didn't think that's going to work. Plus, just like how they did Sonic Frontiers, I don't know whether they're going to actually do like a schedule that they're going to actually, create for adding additional content, just like how they did for Sonic Frontiers. But if they do decide to do that, and any of the ideas that I mentioned in this video to actually use that as the additional content for Shadow Generations, then I'll be definitely 100% be all for that, because this is Shadow after all. He is one of the best characters of the entire Sonic franchise, and seeing him getting all the love that he had since last year, throughout even still this year perhaps, I think it's safe to say that that they might just do that. Any of these ideas that might come into mind, then let me know in the comments below that what do you think? What do you think out of these ideas? Do you think that what I just said could actually be like, actual DLCs for Shadow Generations? With the additional levels, the additional boss levels, the skins, or even the movie pack DLC will have more content in it. I really do hope so, but that's just basically wishful thinking, so I will leave that open. Anyway, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and click on the notification bell to never miss a video. I will actually continue to do sort of videos like this because due to the fact that this is now like a remaster plus a new game of Sonic Generations, there's going to be a bunch of new content, the things that I want to talk about, especially like other campaigns that could actually be added on to Sonic X Shadow Generations a lot more. So this way, it can just, it will have more shelf life, it'll have more content for you to play on. It'll just be absolutely awesome, it'll be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to share all these ideas with you by the time when this video is finished. So, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, guys. As always, my name is Mad Dog, and may your days be mad and rad!